We start with Boeing and the decision to ground 737 MAX 8s and 9s in the United States. Now, this comes after days of pressure following similar declarations made by a growing number of countries and airlines across the globe. For the latest, we go to RT correspondent John Huddy out of Miami. So, John, the president said earlier and talked, but what else has he said about the decision as to why he grounded the 737 MAX 8 and 9 aircraft?
Yeah, and this was a major announcement today, as we reported on earlier. President Trump said, really, Scotty, that it came down to the safety of the American people. The president, speaking from the White House, actually in a meeting about immigration, said that the decision stemmed from the FAA's new findings regarding that Ethiopian Airlines crash Sunday, killing all 157 people on board. President Trump said that he spoke with Elaine Chao, who's the Secretary of Transportation, Dan Elwell, the acting administrator of the FAA, and Dennis Muilenburg, who's the CEO of Boeing, and all agreed with the decision, he says, according to the president, to ground the aircraft. The president adding that all flights currently airborne would be grounded upon landing. Here's what the president said. Listen.
Any plane currently in the air will go to its destination and thereafter be grounded until further notice. So planes that are in the air will be grounded. If they're the 737 MAX, will be grounded upon landing at the destination. Pilots have been notified. Airlines have been all notified. Airlines are agreeing with this. The safety of the American people and all people is our paramount concern. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Boeing is an incredible company. They are working very, very hard right now. And hopefully they'll very quickly come up with the answer. But until they do, the planes are grounded.
And by the way, that is happening. I'm seeing cancellations. I'll get to that. But there's been increasing pressure on the White House, the FAA, and Boeing to ground the new 737 MAX 8 and 9s following Sunday's crash in which that Ethiopian Airlines flight went down shortly after takeoff. The second crash involving the 737 MAX 8 model in less than 5 months, of course, following the Lion Air disaster off Indonesia, as you recall, in which 189 people died back in October. In both crashes, the pilots reported problems moments after takeoff and requested emergency landings. And as mentioned off the top, the U.S. now joins more than 60 other nations that have grounded the aircraft so far, Scotty.
John, we have heard from President Trump in the White House. However, what is the FAA and Boeing saying about this?
Yeah, well, both released statements this afternoon. Boeing saying this, Scotty, quote, Boeing has determined out of an abundance of caution and in order to reassure the flying public of the aircraft's safety to recommend to the FDA the temporary suspension of operations of the entire global fleet of 371 737 MAX aircraft. And then the FAA adding in its own statement that it was ordering the temporary grounding of Boeing 737 MAX aircraft operated by U.S. airlines or in U.S. territory, saying, quote, the agency made the decision as a result of the data gathering process and the new evidence collected at the site and analyzed today. And that includes refined satellite data, according to the FAA, and the so-called black boxes, the flight data and cockpit data recorders. And it seems that based on the statements and additional information, that the evidence from both crashes are now being compared. And that is a significant detail. Among the U.S. airlines flying the 737 MAX aircraft, Southwest Airlines has 34 of the MAX 8s in operation, and American Airlines has 24 737 MAX 8s. As I said, I'm already seeing flight cancellations involving the 737 MAX 8 aircraft nationally. In fact, looking at my computer out of Miami International, flights to LaGuardia have been canceled because that MAX 8 has been grounded, and that's likely to continue as the airlines swap out the aircraft. American says it's working to rebook customers. United saying it does not expect a significant operational impact. And by the way, quickly, if you're planning to travel and you're wondering if you were supposed to be on a 737 MAX 8 like I was, or supposed to be when I fly to D.C. in about a week and a half, look in your flight travel information under the aircraft that the 737 MAX 8 is listed as a 7M8. So if you are flying, call your airline, find out what's going on with that. Scotty.
Absolutely, very concerning, very important. But I have to, I hate to talk about money at a time like this when we're talking about safety is number one. However, I have to look at what the stock market did and what the Boeing stock did. How is this likely to affect Boeing going forward in several different areas?
Well, look, it's a good question. From a financial standpoint, Boeing stock is taking a hit. Investors lost $26.6 billion in the first 2 trading days this week. But, look, the bottom line, Scotty, Boeing remains a powerful company, and Lobbyist on Capitol Hill. One reason some critics say that the order to ground all the aircraft wasn't made sooner because of all the power players involved, among a list of compiled by the Center for Responsive Politics from 1998 to 2018, just taking a look and following the money, Boeing spent more than $274 million in lobbying efforts during those 10 years, followed by the other big aircraft manufacturers, Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin. In 2018 alone, Boeing spent $15 million on lobbying efforts. And as far as political contributions, Boeing spent more than $4 million last year. So some of the company's top lobbyists are former government officials. There are members of Congress who own Boeing shares. But for now, Scotty, big money is being put aside because of Boeing's big problems with its MAX 8 jets.
Well,
Scotty.
Well, John, I cannot help to think about just 2 weeks ago, the President Trump's big announcement in Vietnam with $20 billion deal between Boeing and the country of Vietnam, and what a difference 2 weeks can make. Let's hope they get this figured out soon for your and I both travel's sake.
You bet.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.